Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, family and friends. We are back again. So, today's topic is called the law of unintended consequences. And it is a lesson in hilarity, okay? So first, let me start off. There is a rapper, entertainer named Afro Man, okay? Now, some of you guys might recognize that name because he had a song. He was a one-hit wonder, and his song was called Because I Got High, okay? So for those of you that recognize that name, and you know who I'm talking about, okay? His house was broken into, and I say that in the strictest of terms, by police, local to where he lives. And the police broke in on I don't know if it was because they thought this guy has too much money, he's too flashy, whatever the case may be, okay? Don't know why they broke into his house, but when they did, they broke his door. One of the officers, they were going through his refrigerator. They ate some of his cake. They were going through the pockets in his clothes. Now, he made songs about it, okay? Because what they didn't know is that he has, like indoor security cams, ring cam, whatever the case may be. So he recorded them breaking into his house, broke his door, and he made songs about it. Now, I wouldn't have heard or known anything about these songs or anything about his comeback from these songs had the police not decided to try to sue him for defamation. So that brought publicity to the songs, and what happened? Lo and behold, they went to court, had their day in court. He won. The police lost their case. So not only did they publicize and make it known that these songs were available, he made more money off of these songs than he probably did his one-hit wonder, okay? From streaming and likes and views and all that. So they just made him more money and brought attention to these songs. They could have just left it alone, done the right thing, and gone on with their lives. Now that brings me to point number 2. There's a comedian named Drewski, and he does parodies and things like that all the time. He did one, I want to say it was last week, maybe the week before, and he never mentions a name. He never says that this is such and such, but I can tell you, it looks like one Miss Erica Kirk, okay? And his parody of her, he's dressed like her, makeup, all that. This is another one of those I would not have known about it, would not have heard about it. But guess what? She's trying to sue him for defamation or name, image, likeness, something along those lines. I wouldn't have known about it, but she's suing him. And now that's brought attention to it, and it's making him, he's blowing up, from the attention. All right, so that's 2 hilarious laws of unintended consequences. Here's the third, and this one's not so funny. There was a military helicopter pilots, and they flew by Kid Rock's house and hovered, and he saluted him, he got him on tape, all this, like, oh, these are Trump supporters and the military, blah blah blah, and like making a spectacle of it. Here's the problem: these helicopters, they were out on training exercises, so they went out of their way to go by, because Kid Rock's house is apparently, it's this big, it's very noticeable, very well known, whatever. They went out of their way, out of their flight plan, because when you got to have a flight plan, and they went into civilian space, flying below the hard deck, below the flight deck, and they're hovering outside his house, They're breaking all kinds of rules and regulations by doing that. And they thought they were just, hey, we're frat boys in the Army now. It's the frat boy White House with Pete Hegseth, and we can just do whatever we want as long as the president smiles and Pete, we're good to go. Oh, not so fast. Here's where the problem comes in. Because they were on an I don't want to say uncharted, but they were not authorized to be where they were at flying. Okay, because you have to log your flight plan, all that kind of stuff with the FAA. Now, what if there had been a police chase and they come in contact, or a news helicopter, or a care flight? There are all these things. Now, obviously they didn't happen, but considering how many accidents we're having at the airports right now, you don't think that something like that could have potentially happened and we had some people injured or, worse? That's the problem. And initially, these pilots were probably disciplined. Now, Pete Hegseth is saying, oh, they're not going to be disciplined, no discipline, and there's going to be no investigation. Like, what kind of nonsense? What kind of, like, how do we take ourselves seriously? How are other countries going to take us seriously, like Iran, if we can't even discipline our own soldiers for messing up? And then you want to add on to it that one of our bases was attacked by Iran because they say information that they received from Russia allowed them to know critical targets to hit. Meanwhile, our president is allowing Russia to have their sanctions removed from their oil and allowing them to deliver oil to Cuba. If you don't think that where there's smoke, there's fire, and that there is something wrong with how friendly Trump is being to Russia, even with the reports that Russia is helping Iran attack U.S. targets, if you didn't think January 6th was treasonous or seditious, what do you think about this? Anyway, I'm going to leave all that alone so they don't sue me for defamation. Anyway, thank you guys for watching my video, and y'all have a good afternoon.